Chapter 2, in which Pooh goes visiting and gets into a tight place. Edward Bear. His friends call him Winnie the Pooh, or just Pooh for short. He was walking through the forest one day, humming proudly to himself. He had made up a little hum that very morning as he was doing his donut exercise in front of the glass. Tra-la-la, tra-la-la, as he stretched up as high as he could go, and then, tra-la-la, tra-la-la, oh, help! La, as he tried to reach his toes. After he had breakfast, he said it over and over to himself, until he had remembered it clearly. And now he was humming it right through properly. The song that he made went like this. Tra-la-la, 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 rum-tum, tiddle-um-tum. Tiddle-iddle, 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 rum-tum, tiddle-um. Well, he was humming this hum that he created to himself, and walking along curiously, wondering what everybody else was doing, and what it felt like, being somebody else, when suddenly he arrived at a sandy bank, and in the bank was a large hole. Aha, said Paul. Rum-tum-tiddle-um-tum. If I know anything about anything, the hole means rabbit, he said. And rabbit means company, he said. And company means food and listening to me, humming and such like. Rum-tum-tum-tiddle-um. So he bent down, put his head into the hole, and called out, Hello, is anybody at home? There was a sudden scuffling noise from inside the hole, and then that silence. What I said was, Is anybody at home? Called out Pooh very loudly.
No, nobody's home. Now, stop shouting,
said a voice, and then added,
You didn't have to shout so loud. I heard you nice and clear at the first time.
Bother, said Pooh. Isn't there anybody here at all? Are you sure there's nobody?
You heard me. There's nobody.
Winnie the Pooh took his head out of the hole, and then thought for a little while. And he thought to himself, there must be somebody there because somebody must have said that there is nobody. So he put his head back in the hole and said, Oh, hello, Rabbit. Isn't that you over there?
No,
said Rabbit, in a different sort of voice this time. But isn't that Rabbit's voice? I swear I heard you loud and clear.
I don't think so,
said Rabbit.
It isn't meant to be.
Oh, alright then, I guess I'm wrong, said Pooh. He took his head out of the hole and had another think. And then he put his head inside the hole and said, Well, if you're not Rabbit then, could you very kindly tell me where Rabbit is?
He has gone to see his friend Pooh Bear, who is a great friend of him.
But that's me, said Bear, very much surprised.
What do you mean? What sort of me?
Pooh Bear, I'm Pooh Bear.
Are you sure about that?
said Rabbit, still more surprised. Quite, I'm quite sure, said Pooh.
Oh, well, then come on in.
So Pooh pushed and pushed and pushed his way through the hole, and at last he got it.
You are quite right,
said Rabbit, looking at him from head to toes.
It is you. I'm so glad to see you.
Who did you think it was?
Well, I wasn't sure. You know that how it is in the forest. One can't have anybody coming into one's house. One has to be extra careful and aware. What about a muffle of something?
Pooh always liked a little something at 11 o'clock in the morning, and he was very glad to see Rabbit getting out the plates and mugs. And when Rabbit said,
"Honey or condensed milk with your bread?"
he was so excited that he said, "Both." And then, so as not to seem greedy, he added, "But don't bother about the bread, please." And for a long time after that he said nothing, until at last, humming to himself in a rather sticky voice, he got up, shook Rabbit lovingly by the paw, and said that it must be get going.
"Must you?"
Said Rabbit politely. Well, said Pooh, I could stay a little longer if you... And he tried very hard to look in the direction of the larder.
"As a matter of fact,"
said Rabbit.
"I was going out myself directly."
Oh, well then, I'll be going on. Goodbye, Rabbit.
"Well, goodbye. Only if you're sure you won't wanna have any more."
Is there any more? Asked Pooh quickly. Rabbit took the covers off the dishes and said,
"No, there wasn't."
I thought not, said Pooh, nodding to himself. Well, goodbye then. I must get going now. So he started to climb out of the hole. He poured with his front paws and pushed with his back paws. And in a little while his nose was out in the open again, and then his ears, and then his front paws, and then his shoulders, and then... Oh gosh, help me, said Pooh. I better go back. Oh, bother, said Pooh. I shall have to go on. I can't do either. Now by this time Rabbit wanted to go for a walk too. And finding the front door full, he went out by the back door and came around to Pooh and looked at them.
"Hey, are you stuck?"
He asked. No, I'm not, said Pooh carelessly. I was just resting and thinking and humming to myself.
"Here, give us a paw."
Poor Bear stretched out a paw, and Rabbit poured and poured and poured. Ow! cried Pooh. You're hurting,
"The fact is,"
said Rabbit.
"you're stuck."
You know, it all comes, said Pooh crossly, of not having front doors big enough.
"It all comes,"
said Rabbit sternly.
"of eating too much. I thought at the time.
Said Rabbit.
Only I didn't like to say anything.
Said Rabbit.
That one of us was eating too much.
Said Rabbit.
And I knew it wasn't me.
He said.
Well, I shall go and fetch Christopher Robin."
Christopher Robin lived at the other end of the forest, and when he came back with Rabbit and saw the front half of Pooh, he laughed and said,
Haha, silly old bear.
in a loving voice that would make everybody feel quite hopeful again. I was just beginning to think, said Bear, crying slightly, that Rabbit might never be able to use his front door again, and I should hate that. He said,
So should I.
said Rabbit, floating his paws over his chest.
Never use his front door again?
Said Christopher Robin.
Of course, he'll use his front door again.
Good.
Said Rabbit.
If we can't pull you out, Pooh, the only way is pushing you back.
Rabbit stretched his whiskers thoughtfully and pointed out that when once Pooh was pushed back, he was back. And of course nobody was more glad to see Pooh than he was. Still there it was. Some lived in trees and some lived in underground, and... You mean I'd never get out? Said Pooh.
I mean,
Said Rabbit.
that having got so far, it seems a pity to waste it.
Christopher Robin nodded in agreement.
Then there's only one thing to be done.
He said,
We shall have to wait for you to get thin again.
How long does getting thin usually take? Asked Pooh anxiously.
About a week, I should think.
But I can't stay here for a week.
You can stay here all right, silly old bear. It's getting you out which is so difficult that we give up already.
We'll read sorry to you.
Said Rabbit cheerfully.
And I hope it won't snow.
He added.
And I say, old fellow, do you mind if I use your back legs as a towel holder? There they are, doing nothing. And it will be very convenient just to hang the towels on them.
A week, said Pooh gloomily. What about meals? I'm sure gonna get hungry down here. Half down here,
I'm afraid no meals,
said Christopher Robin.
because you need to think quicker. But we will read stories to you.
Bear began to sigh, and then find he couldn't because he was so tightly stuck, and a tear rolled down his eye as he said,
Then would you read a sustaining book, such as would help and comfort a wedged bear in great tightness?
So for a week, Christopher Robin read that sort of book at the north end of Pooh and Rabbit, hung his washing on the south end, and in between, Bear felt himself getting slender and slender. And at the end of the week, Christopher Robin said,
Now,
so he took hold of Pooh's front paws, and Rabbit took hold of Christopher Robin. And all Rabbit's friends and relations took hold of Rabbit, and they all pulled together. And after a long time, Pooh only said, Ow, it hurts, stop, and oh. And then all of a sudden, he said, Pop, just as if a cork were coming out of a bottle. And Christopher Robin and Rabbit and all Rabbit's friends and relations went head over heels backwards. And on the top of them came Winnie the Pooh free. So with a nod of thanks to his friends, Thank you all so much for setting me free again. He went on with his walk through the forest, humming proudly to himself, even though he was very hungry after days of not eating. But Christopher Robin looked after him lovingly and said to himself,
silly old bear,